Hello, and welcome to Boston Balling. It feels so good to say that. It's awesome being back on the grind with the show. I missed everybody. I missed being able to talk Boston sports in general. It's been really awesome, actually, what I've had going on lately with Locked On Red Sox and everything. It certainly kept me busy, but happy to be back here. And there's so much to talk about, especially in the football world right now, as we have officially entered a new era of Patriots football with Bill Belichick no longer being in the picture, which was going to happen at some point, but the question became when. So, going to be talking about all of that today. And couldn't think of anybody better to come on than a guest that I've done so many shows with, between his podcast, the Real Deal podcast, between my show, and we've just done a lot of shows together. We've just collaborated a lot over sports. So I figured he'd be a great person to have on for this Boston Balling reboot. My friend, Courtney Harden, how are you doing?
Gabby, it is great for you to be back into the podcast world. Boston Ballin is back, so I'm glad to have you back. Back into this genre of podcasting, and I'm excited to catch up with you and appreciate the invite always. And like I said, whenever we do shows together, we always have a really, really good time, informative, and all that. So, but I'm excited. I'm excited to be here. So, again, thank you for the invite. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. How has everything been going with your show since the last time we connected?
The show's been good. Show's been really good. New year, and happy New Year to you as well, you and the family, and everything. And yeah, the show's been good. It's just trying to was gonna not it's not a relaunch, but just trying to elevate it more with some different guests and everything from a lot of different things, a lot of different jobs and things like that for careers that people are doing. And so just trying to do that a little bit different, still with sports first and foremost, but trying to get a lot of different guests on. And we are the BS3 network where the show is on, where the podcast is on, is headed to the Super Bowl week. So we got credentials for Super Bowl week for yeah. So we not for the game itself, but the week, so we're gonna try to catch up with people from media and maybe get some interviews and things like that. So yeah, we're very excited. So we got 4 credentials. So me, my wife's going, and the creator Ben Sutters and his business partner Ivan Dawkins. So shout out to BS3 Network. So we did get selected. We're just now waiting for which events can we go to. Hopefully I'm hoping for Radio Row, because that's the one big one I really want to go on, and just if we don't get a table, I don't know if we're going to get a booth or a table, or just to be able to go there and walk around and try to do interviews. So that's been a real big thing, just to try to get credentials. That's a different thing we're trying to do with the podcast and the network.
That's so cool. Congratulations to all of you. That'll be an amazing experience, I'm sure.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, I'm excited, and this will be my second credentialed. I did the WNBA draft, a little bit of WNBA draft last year in New York. Did that. So this will be the second one, but this is big. So just trying to keep the ball rolling with the podcast, and like I said, just keep elevating it each and every week. So yeah, and you've been a big part of that too. So I can't thank you enough for always being a supporter, friend, and just like I said, being on the show. Every time I ask you, we just find the time and we do it. So I'm always excited to have you on and be a part of that too.
Yeah, no problem. I always enjoy our conversations, for sure. Always good perspectives, and it's always nice to hear what you have to say about everything that's going on. And so, speaking of everything that's going on, what a whirlwind it's been for both of us, really, when it comes to our favorite football teams as of late.
Yeah.
And I definitely have to start with the big news about the Patriots. I mean, talk about just the end of an era, and the best era I'll probably ever see in my lifetime, of just this dominance year after year with Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. And it will just never be the same, truly. Now that the second half of that puzzle is officially gone. Now we're really starting over with a fully new era of Patriots football. And
Yeah.
obviously for Belichick, he just has left so much of a legacy on the sport that even if he had retired after this season, he will undoubtedly go down as, one of, if not the greatest coach of all time, and just all that he's accomplished. And it'll be interesting to see where he ends up next, because he's obviously not most likely retiring. So there's other teams interested in his skill set and what he has to bring to the table. So any thoughts on, where you think could be a good fit for him?
Well, as of now, it looks like, as we're recording this podcast episode, it looks like, I mean, it's Atlanta, maybe. I know they interviewed him, and can they pull the trigger and convince Arthur Blank, and he convince Bill Belichick to be part of their team and be the coach of their team. It's tough because I don't know. I don't know if he fits in Atlanta or not. I'm not sure, because if he does, he's gonna he want to get his quarterback, and he want to get his put his blueprint on his team of Atlanta. We'll see what happens there. But I mean, you're talking about a guy that's been 24 years with the Patriots and winning 6 Super Bowls. With the Patriots there, and 29 years just coaching in general. So he's not getting any younger. So he's getting older. I feel like if he does coach again wherever he coaches and he's being interviewed, I think he just has to be a coach now, not a GM, just a coach. Because I think him as a GM, and you could speak to this more than I can, him as a GM, getting, with that, especially now, the talent of drafting and stuff, not maybe his strong suit anymore. So now I think it's just more about coaching, trying to get the all-time wins. That I know that's what he wants to do way before he retires officially. But he's one of the greatest, not the greatest coach of all time in football. But yeah, is a destination. There's a Atlanta might be Dallas possibly. I don't know how him and Jerry Jones will get along. I don't know. I doubt it, but there could be an opening there in Dallas. Could be open here in Philly. I know we're gonna get into Philly soon if Sirianni gets fired. So there's some teams. I just wonder if Belichick, the Chargers. There's another team I think that he could really fit there. There's teams, because I think Belichick just he needs a legit quarterback, kind of like he had with Tom Brady for all those years, 20+ years. He gets someone like a Justin Herbert, maybe Jalen Hurts, even Dak Prescott. If he can get into a situation like that instead of starting over with Atlanta, I think that'll fit more for Belichick at this stage of his career instead of a rebuild.
Yeah, he definitely is at the point now where, like you said, he's not getting any younger. So he wants to be in a place that it's already kind of set up for him to
Yeah,
win and have success there. Ultimately, I think what led to his departure here was he didn't want to necessarily stay through a full rebuild that the Patriots are going through here. And I think on the same token, Robert Kraft saw that they really have to have a very good draft this year. They absolutely have to nail this draft
mm,
this year, and they need to bring in somebody who they feel has the capability to nail this draft. And I don't think he was necessarily thinking that Belichick was the guy for that anymore. I do agree with you as a GM. Bill, just especially towards the end, was not really nailing his GM responsibilities. But as a coach, he's one of the most knowledgeable football
yeah, oh yeah.
people in the game. So his
Mhm.
services as a coach would be appreciated no matter where he goes. It's just a matter of, can he find a good spot for him where he already has the talent on the roster to be able to help him win a lot of games. That's why Dallas actually popped into my head as a potential destination, because I mean, McCarthy for sure is on the hot seat now,
Yeah,
because since they lost again, and this was a brutal loss for them at home when they had played so well at home, to just absolutely choke away that game like they did. And they looked pretty awful. And
yeah,
that's why, he's somebody who I could see the Cowboys wanting to move on from. And if they do bring in Bill, they have talent on that team.
yeah,
So I think that could be a desirable situation for him, because he's not dealing with trying to have to, find a lot of that talent and rebuild. That's a pretty complete roster. It's just a matter of, can Belichick help get them over that hump of constantly struggling in the playoffs?
That's a good point. I think you said the one thing you said that was really um, with Belichick having the mind, like his mind, like one of the best coaching minds that we've ever seen. And I know there's always arguments, like I said, as you as a fan and covering the team and things like that. Oh, well, it was Brady that won all those championships. It was Belichick. It was like it was a 50-50 thing. Like they were all in together when they won those championships. It wasn't more Brady than now. Brady went and won a Super Bowl with Tampa Bay, but he went into a Tampa Bay team that was pretty good, and he goes in. They were just that quarterback away from, and they won a Super Bowl. So yeah, they got Tom Brady. So probably the greatest player of all time. So, but now Belichick's one of the greatest coaches of all time. So you just put that together, it was a winning formula. So Belichick's now one of the greatest minds in football history, goes to a team like a Dallas or like a even Philly or anything like that, or even like I said, even the Chargers. He'll bring discipline to the teams, and seems like Dallas and Philly and the Chargers, they need discipline now. Like they need someone that's going to go in there, not put up with any BS, and just go in and maybe turn them around. Like I said, maybe can he get that team down, like Dallas Cowboys, over the hump? My only worry with that would be the Jerry Jones factor. Jerry Jones, he loves to stick his hands in a lot of different things with that team, and will he let Belichick just be Belichick and let him coach like you? Because he would have to respect. Okay, this guy's got 6 Super Bowl championships. Will will he do that? Because being a coach in Dallas, I know Mike McCarthy. I don't know how much leeway he has or anything like that, but I guess getting Bill Belichick, who, like I said, that's well respected. Maybe Mike McCarthy got a Super Bowl, but it's that, will he get that with, he's got to have that respect for Bill Belichick. So Dallas would be a decent fit. And like I said, I know Atlanta's been really pushing hard to try to get Belichick. It's up to him if he wants to go through another rebuild, because then he would have to draft, and their team that wasn't very good. They got some talent. They do have some talent, but they'll need a quarter. They're probably gonna need a quarterback. So I don't know. I don't know if I see him in Atlanta, but then again, they pay him a lot of money. He'll go there and try to turn them around.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where he goes. That's definitely one of the biggest storylines as we head into the offseason this year. And it's really weird just seeing all the headlines of Belichick interviewing places. It's definitely a little bit of a hard pill for me to swallow as a
Yeah,
Patriots fan. But I also knew that it kind of was time to move on, especially from him as GM. And I would have been okay with keeping him around as just a coach and not as a GM. But I do think, the Patriots are bringing somebody in who knows how to connect with the players. He's spent his entire career with the Patriots, so
yeah,
he knows the system. He's seen, the hardships the Patriots have gone through the last few years since Brady left. And he's been able to be around everything that's gone on there the last few years. So I really like him from that standpoint. My concern with him is just that lack of head coaching experience. I think there might be a little bit of you know, a period where he's going to have to get adjusted to
yeah,
being in that type of role, since that's not something he's done before. And again, this is new for the Patriots. Like, they
yeah.
haven't had a new head coach in a very, very long time.
Right.
So they're obviously putting trust in somebody who they know knows the organization. And I
Hmm.
feel like from the standpoint of connecting with the players, I think that was something that Belichick lacked in, especially towards the end.
Right.
And I think it kind of showed in their play on the field, and having a coach who is able to connect with the players, I feel like is incredibly important. And that's something to me that Mayo, I think, does really well.
Yeah, I like the hire. I loved it. And when they said Jerod Mayo, when Belichick, when he, I don't know if you would say he got fired or he just got let go, whatever you want to say. I mean, it's hard to say Belichick is
Yeah.
fired, but I mean, he got let go and they departed ways. And I knew it's like, okay, Robert Kraft was like, I haven't had to interview someone in 24 years. Like, I don't, and then it's like, what, a day or two later, Jerod Mayo gets the head coaching job. And I remember I was talking with someone about that. I was like, oh, it might be Jerod Mayo. Like his name was already floating around. It was almost like it was like the torch was passed to him to get this coaching job. And he's like I say, he's been a Patriot. He knows the Patriot way. He was he was the linebacker for years. Then he was a linebacker coach for years. So since 2019. So I know he's going to put his own blueprint on this team and his own, on this team. So he's gonna make some. He's got to adjust as a head coach, and he's filling a big role, big shoes to fill. And one of the, like I said, the greatest coach of all time, who's what 14 wins away from the all-time record behind Don Shula for wins. So yeah, he's heading into an organization where there's a lot of pressure, but then it might not be as much pressure. Maybe he's going like, okay, I'm going to be because I he did his press conference today, and I was listening to it.
Yeah.
He was talking about, I know I'm not gonna be able to replace Bill Belichick. What he meant to this organization, I'm not him. I'm going to be Jerod Mayo and what I bring. And as you said, I think the connection, that chemistry, is what now these teams, what these coaches have to do. They have to connect in the locker room with their players, and I think Belichick might have lost a little bit of that. Um, and that happens. You've been with one organization for so long, and you lose that ear for the players are not listening or anything like that because you have bad season after bad season and turns them off. And I think that's what Robert Kraft was basically saying. This time is going to come, and I didn't know if it was going to come after this season, but I figured maybe next year, maybe they'll keep Belichick one more season. But I guess maybe it was just time. And but Mayo, yes, he's got a big shoes to fill, but I really believe that it was a great hire because, like I said, he's been brought up into this in the Patriots system.
Yeah, and I, really like the guy and just how positive he's being
Yeah,
about this whole thing and how excited he is. And he was prepared for this because they did
yeah,
have something in his contract that he had signed that said he would take over as the guy if
hmm
Belichick were to, depart or be let go. So he was already prepared to step into the role, which is another thing to me that I like because he's had some time to mentally prepare for this
yep,
to be in this role. And obviously, nobody's going to be Bill Belichick. I mean, he's
yeah,
he's a legend.
yep,
But I think if Mayo can kind of create a new identity for this team and just kind of say we were part of the greatest dynasty of all time, which obviously isn't going to probably happen again, but we can
probably not.
create new story for this organization and how this team is going to be. And it really does start with you know what they do this off season and this upcoming draft. And
Yeah,
to me, there's some issues here. There are some things that they need to fix. Specifically, figuring out the quarterback position. Are they going to try to keep somebody that they have in the organization and try to get more help around that player to help them to essentially develop into the quarterback they need to be? Are they going to draft a rookie quarterback from this class? Which is, there's some talent in this quarterback class, but I am not completely sold on the top tier guys like
hmm
Williams and May to the point where I think the Patriots need to force a pick on them. I would rather see them use their pick on like MHJ early
yeah,
on. And then because I really like Penix from Washington, I really liked what I saw from him in the college football playoff. And he's somebody they could get later if they wanted to.
yeah,
But the receiving core is something to me that is another huge area of concern, as well
hmm
as the offensive line. And what I'm wondering is, are the Patriots, heading in a direction of still going to maintain that same level of constantly having a dominant defense because Belichick was a defensive guy and now they're bringing somebody in who has experience on that side of the ball? Or, are they going to be able to bring in a GM who can recognize and draft offensive talent? Because that's definitely the priority right now.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the huge priority. I think their number one priority is getting an office identity. And Jerome Mayo did say they want to rebuild relationships and just establish a new culture of the Patriots. And And it's gonna, like you said, I'm sure it's gonna be different. It's gonna look different for you as a fan for so long,
Very weird.
and it's gonna be a little different and weird. But as you said, Jerod Mayo's been part of this organization for a long time, for so many years, and now he like I said, he wants to establish and get his what his he's establishing his blueprint of this team, and I really believe that he could do it. But it's all about who he hires as his staff, because it's important as your staff. It's gotta really be connective with the with the head coach, because if you don't have that good staff with you, you could definitely struggle. But you're right. There's questions on who's going to be the quarterback, receiving core, offensive line, and the running back position. I think they're pretty set on the running back position. So it's just Ramondre Stevenson, and if Zeke, they're pretty set there. I think it's just now it's everything else, but the quarterback position, I think, is probably the number one priority, and they just gotta get that one right, because they Mac Jones won good his rookie year, and then he just bottomed out after the last 2 years. It's almost like he just didn't know he didn't know what to do. It seemed like in that anywhere, so he really declined after his rookie year.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate to see because I had high hopes for him when the
Hmm.
Patriots drafted him, coming out of a great system in college, coming off of a national championship, and I definitely thought that he was somebody who had that potential when he got here because I really
Yeah,
liked his work ethic. And not everybody can succeed with the Patriots because of just the system and the way things were run under Belichick. And I think the organization is partly at fault for Mac Jones's lack of ability to succeed here because they never truly surrounded him with the talent that he needed to succeed. But he also had some problems of his own that, just didn't seem to be fixable. And I think it's clear at this point that they need to move on from him. And if they try to keep him around and build around him. I think, mentally he's just so done with the
yeah,
Patriots. And so I don't think he'd even be able to be effective anymore, even if they tried to keep him.
yeah. I think he has to move on. I think even if it's somewhere as a backup, or maybe another situation where he can actually start. I think even with a new voice, even if Jerod Mayo tries to, if they go with him, I don't know. I don't know if it's fixable either. I just with certain guys, and especially at the quarterback position, is sometimes it's just have to move on. And I mean, I've seen it in Philly with Carson Wentz. It's just had to move on. It just wasn't working anymore, and it's unfortunate, because you said Carson Wentz had talent, but it was everything else. It was the lack of leadership. It was a lack of accountability. I don't know about that with Mac Jones, but it's more of, you said, he just feels broken and he lost his confidence. And once you lose your confidence, it's like, okay, maybe I need to go somewhere else and try to build on that confidence. I just don't think it's in New England anymore.
Yeah, 100%. So, I mean, obviously, there's a lot of things that they need to address. And it's pretty clear that on the offensive side of the ball, like, they need to do a lot of work. And that's why this draft is so important for them
Hmm.
because, you know, from the receiving end, I mean, like, I do like Douglas. I think he's a
Yeah,
talented young piece that's worth kind of building around when it comes to the receiving core. But other than him, there were not really consistent, reliable receivers that this team has had. And so that's another area that I'd like them to address early on. And obviously, the offensive line is just an absolute mess. So I'm looking at going into this offseason in the draft and saying this offense just needs a lot of things to happen. And what concerns me is the Patriots, it's been reported, aren't really rushing their GM search. They're not, like, they're kind of taking their time with it. And it's possible that they don't hire a GM until after the draft. And that concerns me a little bit because I would feel so much more secure if they brought in somebody before that who has had the experience with drafting, because this specific draft I'm looking at is so important because this really could define what this next round of Patriots football is really going to look like.
Yeah. I think they should hire. They got to hire a GM before the draft because if you wait too long with the GM, now you're just relying on. Okay, you're relying on your scouting department. You're relying on others in the organization, but you might need that leader because you can say Jerod Mayo. He's got to learn. He's learning a new system. He's learning. He's trying to get his stamp of that what the team's supposed to be. And but to have a GM that he could connect with and partner with would take some pressure off. If not, he's got to play GM at least until they hire someone. Because I don't know if he wants to do GM and coach, especially for your first year, and you're just learning the coaching to be a coach, a head coach. It's he's got to worry about that and really concentrate on that. And as you said, there's so many holes on the especially on the offensive side of this team. It would be nice to have a GM who can work with the scouts and the coaching because, like I said, they got to hire now. They got to hire a staff, so they got to do all that. So yeah, it's going to be interesting all season to I'm sure as a Patriots fan to see this is an important all season to like I said with the free agency and draft.
Yeah, and I mean, the division that they're in does not help their cause either because they are in such
Yeah,
a competitive division, and
yes,
it's just everybody. I mean, the Jets even, and it was unfortunate what happened with Rodgers, but if he was healthy this year, I think they would have, been a playoff team because there's a lot of talent on that team, and the
yeah.
Patriots are, just not in the mix with everybody else, and so they can be back in the mix if they do things the right way. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how that all unfolds for them.
Yeah, that you're right in that division. It's so the AFC East, dominated by the Patriots so many years, and now you have Buffalo winning the last couple years, dominating, and then well, they just won the division, they barely won the division this year, but Buffalo looks really solid right now. As long as Josh Allen doesn't turn the ball over, Buffalo is still a legit Super Bowl contender, as long as they don't turn the ball over. But yeah, Buffalo and then Miami, who's improved. I don't know how much further Tua can take them. And you said the Jets. Who knows? I mean, if Aaron Rodgers is healthy, maybe they do make the playoffs. They had a really good defense, and on top of that, they had the running game. They was good on the receiving core, and then you just add Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers was probably going to have a tremendous year, and he gets hurt 4 plays into the season. So yeah, the Patriots in that division it might take a couple of years, but I have a feeling they'll be back right in the mix.
Yeah, hopefully. It's definitely going to take some adjusting for everybody, and
Yeah.
it's not going to be the same really without
Mhm.
Belichick. But obviously, wherever he goes, I'm sure he'll find success because he's just such a knowledgeable guy, and he'll
Yeah.
he'll do well wherever he goes. It's just a matter of circumstantially where he's going to go. But another team that we mentioned that could be an intriguing destination if they do decide to make a head coaching change is your Eagles. And this is a team who has a history of, keeping people on a tight leash and kind of moving on from people if they feel like they're not cutting it. And in normal circumstances, Sirianni's track record would look pretty good. I mean, they went to the Super Bowl last year, but then the circumstances of what happened this year, you look at their record overall this year and you're like, yeah, that's pretty good. But I think the way that it happened was an absolute disaster. I mean, they completely fell apart at the end. They went from early on in the season looking like a Super Bowl contender and people saying like they might not lose a game, or then when they lost one game against the Jets early on, people
Yeah.
were saying they literally might, finish the regular season with one loss. And I was like, no, I think they'll lose to either the 49ers or the Cowboys like coming up. Those were coming up on their schedule. And then all of a sudden it was just like everything went south for them, and nothing was going right. And then sure enough, they come off of a really bad loss in the playoffs too, and it was almost like everybody looked checked out by then.
Yeah.
So what is your perspective on what happened to them really in this later part of the season?
Gabby, I'm still trying to find the answers to that because you said it best. It was a collapse. It fell apart. It I've been trying to like come up with the theme of this season, but the only thing I keep seeing is epic collapse. That's the only thing I can think of because that's what it was. The state of this team, as you said, 10-1, heading into they that beat Kansas City, they beat Miami, they beat Buffalo, 10-1. But I think we talked about this before. I think on my show we was talking about even though they looked 10-1, it didn't look like a 10-1 team. It
We
was,
did, yeah.
we they were winning games like barely winning. They weren't the dominant selves, and I was thinking to myself, okay, they're winning. They're it doesn't look pretty. It doesn't look as dominant as they were last season when they was just running through teams, high powered offense, really good defense, pressuring the pad, pressuring the quarterback, getting turnovers, and then it would flip when it's now they were turning the ball over. Jalen Hurts was turning the ball over, and they weren't getting stopped. They weren't getting turnovers. So it was a complete. It is a like I said, it is a complete mess. It was epic proportion. It was a really downward spiral, and I think when we were talking before we recorded, it was like the 49ers. The way the 49ers came into Philadelphia and dominated them, I think it just broke them. And ever since then, it just downward after that. It was Dallas, it was Seattle, it was
Yep.
Arizona, it was the Giants. It was just each and every week, losing 6 out of the last 7. And then they then talked about Nick Sirianni was saying, I have confidence. We're confident we're going to turn this around. But he was saying that for the last 6, 7 weeks, and it just wasn't working. And when they ran into Tampa Bay, I thought the Eagles were going to win, but I was really really not as confident as I normally is. I'm like, I don't know. It's one of those things. People are like, oh, they should take care of business in Tampa Bay. I was like, I don't know. I mean, I'm looking at this team and the year that they had. And, they're going into this. They're going into the playoffs broken. They're going to this playoffs with no confidence. They're going to the playoffs with nothing. And it just shows, as you said, in that playoff against the Bucks, they really the wheels really fell off in that game. They looked disinterested. They
Yep.
were they looked disengaged. They looked out of sorts. They were ill prepared. So I think it goes. I think it was a lot of factors. I think it was coaching. I think it was the offensive game plan, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. 'Cause defensively, they looked terrible. They were terrible most of the season, and I mean they couldn't make stops. They couldn't get off the field. They were missing tackles, and it just kept snowballing, 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 and then it just like I said, the wheels just really completely fell off in the playoffs, and so it was a lot of different things. Jalen Hurts regressed a lot, and
Yes.
I mean we could blame that on coaching. We could blame on they're not being prepared. He didn't really trust that offensive game plan. Players were arguing with him. AJ Brown. They were just it was a Devontae Smith. They're back and forth, bickering, and so Dallas Goddard in the playoff game. So I think they didn't trust that system. So I think it was like I said, new offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator. We talk about staff. That's very important. And they seem like they're out of the league. And then they make a change in mid-season to get Matt Patricia, as you know,
Oh, yeah.
and
I was
that
like,
was
ooh,
I knew that
good
wasn't
luck with
gonna
that
work.
one.
Yeah, I knew that wasn't gonna work. I knew it. I was like, he's not gonna be any better. So he tried to put his system in. What I think it was like week 10, week 11, and the defense just got worse than when Desai was doing. It was making they should have just kept him. Should have had Sean Desai just continue to be the defensive coordinator. But there was no adjustments on offense. Tampa Bay blitzed probably like 70% of the time, and we had no answer for it. So that's to me comes with coaching for one, and you're not protecting Jalen Hurts, and you're not making adjustments. So Sirianni is on the hot seat. I'm really torn if they're going to keep him or not.
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy. I thought going into the season that they were Super Bowl favorites again. I mean, they had the talent, and when they pulled off that trade for DeAndre Swift during the draft last year,
Yes.
I was like, okay, this is a team that just went to the Super Bowl and just got
Mhm.
better, significantly better in the run
Yeah.
game now. And I was like, if he stays healthy, then that's going to be huge for them. And then they go into the season, and I thought their secondary was something that was a problem all year.
Yeah.
And I was like, eventually this is going to get exposed. And that's something where, again, I look at that 49ers game and I say, yeah, this team can't be trusted defensively.
Right.
And we saw that all the way through. And then the Bucks were just walking all over that defense. Like they
Yeah.
couldn't stop anything.
No, they couldn't stop nobody. I mean, me and you could have been on there, and they wouldn't be able to stop us if we were, and we were on Tampa Bay because it was just a missed tackle after missed tackle after missed tackle, and it kept and that's how it's been the last 7 weeks. It was just it got exposed. You're right. The secondary, the back end of the secondary, in the middle of the field is where they could. And even when third down, I knew every time I was watching, I'm like, they're not gonna make a stop. They're not gonna make a stop. It's like they scoring on every teams are scoring on almost every possession. Dallas scored on like almost every possession. Arizona in the second half scored on every possession, and they could not make any side. They could not get off the field. And you said secondary linebacking core and the defensive line. They didn't have as many sacks. They couldn't pressure. They couldn't get any pressure on the quarterback. Last season, they had a record 70. I think it was 70 plus sacks last year, and uh, they brought back most of the guys that and they added from the draft. So you're right. They were the Eagles going into the season were one of the favorites to go to the Super Bowl. They were one of the favorites. I think it was them and the 49ers were the two favorites in the NFC to at least make it to the Super Bowl, at least be contenders. And it looked like it, like you said, but I knew it was just a matter of time, but I didn't think it was going to be this type of collapse. And like I said, it could be. It's like I said, it's a lot of factors, and I know Nick Sirianni had his exit interview today with Jeffrey Lurie, and then people are like, "Oh, wonder what's going to happen? Is he going to get fired? Is he going to come back?" And I think if they do bring Nick Sirianni back, is I don't know, like we were saying, that locker room, how much trust. I mean, how much like him being a leader. I mean, the guys. I mean, 3 seasons. He went to one Super Bowl, and they made the playoffs all 3 years, but I think this collapse. I can see go both ways. I can see him getting fired. I can see him staying maybe one more year, but I think he's going to have to wipe out the staff and just start over and get a better staff.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate because I feel like Sirianni had the locker room for a lot of his time here until this whole collapse started. And for whatever reason, something happened. And you have to wonder now, do they keep him and say, this season was just a fluke and they'll get back on track next year to where they're supposed to be? Or are they really at a point where they need to pivot and make a change? And is Jalen Hurts, I mean, do you trust that he can still be the guy and he just had a rough season because he regressed a lot from last year?
Yeah, I still trust Jalen. I still feel like he's the QB1 um, for the Eagles. I really do because, as you said, they have talent. They have the receivers. They got a running game. They use it. It's just I think it was a little bit. I think it was a little bit of Jalen Hurts regressing, not trusting the system. Even though Brian Johnson is the guy he wanted, and Brian Johnson as the offensive coordinator was over his head. It's just there was no the offense, and the 49ers even said it themselves. The offense just seemed predictable. It's like they knew there was no adjustments, and that goes with Sirianni. He never wanted to make any changes, so it was almost like, okay, you see things are not working. You need to like step in, and you should step in and say, okay, we need to make this offense a little bit. It was just not creative. It wasn't as creative as it was with Shane Steichen when he was the offensive coordinator, and they were flying high. So Jalen had that MVP type caliber season. And even in the beginning of this year, Jalen Hurts was playing MVP football. He was still playing really good, but then the turnover. I mean, I think he doubled, at least almost tripled his turnovers this season. So yeah, he really regressed. So some of it is him taking a little bit of a step back, but I'm not gonna say it's an anomaly, but I think it was more of one decent year. I think he can still get better. He's still young, still get better. I just think now they just need a new offensive coordinator. He's gonna have to learn probably a new system. But is that gonna be with Sirianni, or is it gonna be with somebody like a Belichick or
Belichick.
Mike Vrabel or somebody like that? Is it gonna be? Those are two of the names I will want, but Mike Vrabel especially, I wouldn't mind him if he replaces Sirianni. But I think Sirianni should get one more year. I just think he's just got to get a better, you know, better staff because even guys like Fletcher Cox, who made a big endorsement for him, and Jason Kelsey, big endorsement of saying no, this guy is a leader. So I think it's something in that locker room where there's a disconnect because even Jalen Hurts, he didn't really endorse him either. After they lost, it was almost like he's lost trust. And if a quarterback loses trust into to your coach, or vice
Mhm.
versa. I don't know, but we'll see if Sirianni survives this this wave within the next week.
Yeah, I know. It'll be definitely an interesting one because you know early on in the season, we would never have even thought we'd be having this type of
No,
conversation, which is
no.
crazy to think how quickly that changed. And I honestly thought that the Eagles, were still going to win their division despite the fact that they were struggling. I mean, they choked that division away because Dallas just kept winning games down the stretch.
Yeah,
And I thought for sure that, the Eagles would still win it. And then they play this game against, a team that very much like nobody expected to even be there, no less like go out and do what they did and win that game.
yeah.
And huge credit to Baker Mayfield of the Bucks. I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
that team, like, I mean, he played his heart out in that game. That was like totally, a revenge game for him on like everything that he's been through before coming to Tampa.
yeah.
And he looked really good, and they definitely had a good game there. But it should be interesting to kind of see what happens here with the Eagles and if they do make a change, and if so, who it's going to be, because they need somebody who's going to win the locker room back over, I think, and just kind of be that guy that can boost team morale, because during this whole stretch, it didn't seem like Sirianni was able to get them really back on track morale wise to where they had to be.
Yeah, I think that's a good point because I think now they have to get that morale back. They need to be a little bit more disciplined because it completely fell apart on all aspects of the game, of all aspects of that team, defensively, offensively, coaching. I mean, it was a little bit of everything, and when interesting enough, like you said, Tampa Bay it went in there and dominated the Eagles, and they were down. And the thing is, the Eagles were down 16-9 in that game, so they were still in it because they had held Tampa Bay. I mean, that game could have been even more of a blowout, but they held Tampa Bay to all those field goals because of the drop passes that Tampa Bay had, and they held them to all the I think it was two field goals, yeah, three field goals, and the Eagles were still in it, but when the Eagles got there was a safety, and again another missed tackles, and Baker Mayfield was going up and down the field because we beat Tampa Bay early. It was early in the year, but we beat them 25-11 early in the year, and I think it was week 3, and in Tampa Bay. So as you said, Baker Mayfield was like, okay, but the Eagles. They were throwing the football way too much again. That goes to offense identity. They had none instead of running the football where they ran for 200 yards in the first game against them. But Tampa Bay's defense was all over their offense. They had no
Oh,
answer. They were uninspired. They didn't make any adjustments. That's been like that the entire year, especially the second half of the year. And it just seemed like the team just gave up. And, I know people have said they quit, and it looks like they did, but they really didn't. They didn't show up. They were unprepared, and they didn't know what to they ran into a buzzsaw of Tampa Bay, and I mean they blitz, and Jalen Hurts he's sitting there on the bench with his head just shaking his head like,
yeah.
what am I supposed to do? Like, offensive line can't block. That was supposed to be a strength. They couldn't block. They didn't. They were going. The one thing that's frustrating me in the game, they went 5 wide a lot, 5 wide receivers, where the Buccaneers was just blitzing, sending 6 guys. We got 5 on the line. You need another blocker in there to get the. And they had no respect for the receivers, especially when AJ Brown was out, and Devontae Smith played well, but he was the only one, and Jalen Hurts kept looking for him, but he couldn't escape the pressure, and they never adjusted. The coaching never helped him out in that regard. So that I think that's their fault for not, you know, sending more blockers. So at least have some time. If they're going to blitz. We need to beat that blitz with quick passes, and somebody's going to be open. But he didn't have time to do anything. So that's just more on coaching than I think than more than Jalen, especially in that game.
Yeah, and it's really unfortunate and sad to see when players are visibly frustrated like
Yeah.
that. I mean, I've seen it plenty of times with Mac Jones,
Yeah.
maybe almost too much, but it's frustrating for a team that had such high hopes early on of going back to the Super Bowl and kind of finishing the job this year, for it to end the way that it did
Yeah.
is definitely upsetting, probably to watch as a fan, and also for the guys on the field who are probably really frustrated. So definitely something needs to change. It's just a matter of what does the organization see those changes being. But you know it is what it is. It's definitely unfortunate, but it has set us up for some good games that we have coming
Yeah.
up this weekend here. Some fun divisional games. Bucks Lions, that I think is going to be a really good game. It'll be interesting to see who comes out of that one. Two quarterbacks who were kind of, not wanted with their
Yeah.
original teams that are now back for vengeance with another team. And then, you have the Texans. I mean, they are playing very good football right now and they're surprising everybody. So they've been super fun to watch. So, I definitely wanted to get your predictions on these games this weekend. Who do you have coming out of these games?
Well, let's start with Texans and the Ravens. That's going to be an interesting game because CJ Stroud is like just he's lighting it up, and I actually thought Cleveland was going to beat them because of I thought okay Joe Flacco's playing experience,
Yeah.
that defense, and I mean he just CJ Stroud as a rookie, the way he's been playing, and one of the better quarterbacks this season, really showed up. And D'Amico Ryan has got that defense playing well, flying all over the football. Now they're playing arguably the best team in football. So I'm interested to see how Baltimore responds against this team of Houston. And I got Baltimore winning. But I think the pressure's on Lamar Jackson because he's more than likely going to be the MVP. And now is can he the narrative's always been can he win more than just a one playoff game, and now they have talent, they got talent on both sides of the ball, got receivers now. And so it was never in question about Lamar Jackson's ability. It was just now can he win big in the playoffs. And now he's set up, they got home field advantage, he's set up, and they're going against a hot Houston team. But I got Baltimore winning. I think it's gonna be closer than we think. I really feel like Baltimore's defense is really lights out, but I feel like they'll do enough offensively because he still can beat you with his legs and his arm. And Odell Beckham Jr. is starting to get healthy. And that's scary. The last time we saw Odell Beckham in the playoffs, he was in Super Bowl before he got hurt and was probably going to be Super Bowl MVP. So they got the running game. The Baltimore's got it all. Just about a complete team. So I think it'll just be just enough. They'll overwhelm Houston in a close one. So I got Baltimore winning that one. The other AFC game, which I'm very interested in, Chiefs at the Bills. I mean,
This is Mahomes' first road
yeah,
playoff
playoff.
game, like
Yeah,
other
yeah.
than like obviously neutral sites for the Super
Yes.
Bowl, but that's crazy to think about.
That is crazy. Like he's played at Arrowhead
Yeah.
every single time in the playoffs, which is so crazy. So now he's on the road. They're another team that didn't have a great year, but I always say they still got Patrick Mahomes. It's probably going to be very bitter cold in Buffalo. I'm sure. I don't know if there's going to be any snow or not, but Josh Allen and them, they beat down Pittsburgh. Josh Allen just shows out like he's one of the better quarterbacks in the league, one of the top 3-4 quarterbacks in the league when he's not turning the ball over. So we already seen these two teams, they battled for the last couple of years in the playoffs. I actually going with Kansas City. Maybe this is me believing more in Patrick Mahomes more than anything, but I think they can go to Buffalo and win in a close game because I just feel like with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, I think they now can feel like okay, we can turn around now. Yeah, they're a team that's been up and down. They didn't collapse like the Eagles, but they've been up and down. They don't look the same. The receivers are dropping passes, but their defense is really good. And like I said, they still got Mahomes, and I think he can get hot right even in against Buffalo. So I got that in a close one. So that's my AFC prediction. On NFC, I think Detroit beats Tampa Bay. I think that Tampa Bay played so well, and defensively they played really well. But Detroit winning their first playoff game since 1992. So that's crazy in itself.
Yeah.
And so now that they got that off their back and they're playing with such passion. And Detroit and then Michigan winning the national championship. So there's some winning going on in Detroit. But I think they'll be able to run the football against Tampa Bay. Jared Goff will. If you blitz him, he will make you pay for that blitz. So I don't know if their Tampa Bay is going to blitz as much as they did against Jalen Hurts, but Goff can beat that blitz as long as he doesn't turn the ball over. I think they should win that game. And I think the 49ers coming off a bye, like I said, if not the best team in the NFC, definitely. I think they just got a little too much for Green Bay on both sides of the ball. Great as Jordan Love's been playing, and they're running the football. I think San Francisco will be up for the task. So I got the 49ers beating Green Bay. So uh, I got Baltimore, Kansas City, and Detroit and San Francisco.
Yeah, I think it's interesting you bring up the Packers. I mean, that team has just
Hmm.
surprised a lot of
They
people
have,
in what they've been able to do. And I mean, we were talking about it too, just what they did in that game going into Dallas. I mean, that was really impressive in itself. And,
hmm
Jordan Love looks better than I've ever seen him. But I do agree with you. Ultimately, I think the 49ers are just a better team. And I think they're just going to be too much for the Packers. I think the
yeah,
Packers are on a little hot streak right now, but
yep,
I think it ends here because the 49ers, are unlike the Cowboys in that they don't have a track record of choking every single
yeah,
time in the
right,
playoffs. And I think, they're ready to go, they're rested,
yep.
and, they're playing at home and they'll be ready to go. So I have them too. I actually don't think that one's going to be that close. I think they'll win pretty definitively.
Yeah, agreed. I think so too. I think for as long as Brock Purdy just plays within himself and just rely on his weapons that he's been doing most of the year. Yeah, he's had a couple of games where he hasn't looked really good. I mean, the four interceptions against Baltimore. But I think that's like I said. I think that was just one of those blips of his season because he was playing MVP football too. So he's got a lot of weapons, and he'll just utilize them. I think that'll be just a little too much for Green Bay. Dallas just didn't have the running game, and San Francisco can rely on that running game. And even they can run it with McCaffrey, who's been healthy. He's a difference maker.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
another MVP candidate. He's a difference maker when he's healthy. So, and he's been healthy all year. So that's what's scary about the 49ers.
Yeah, no, I mean they have been my pick to go to the Super Bowl all season, like from the NFC. I just think they've looked like the most complete team,
Yeah.
and I think that's going to continue this weekend. I was going back and forth on the Bills Chiefs for a
Mm,
while too because the Bills, I mean, they struggled for a while this season, and there was a
yeah.
period of time during this season where their fans were worried they weren't even going to make the playoffs. Like they did not look good for some of this season. And I was like, what is going on with this Buffalo team? Like they are supposed to be so much better than this. Then they go in and they win the division and they pull off that impressive win against Miami to win the division and get to play at home. And now they face a Kansas City team that, like you said, has had an up and down season, but it is hard to go against Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs because no matter what they've done this regular season, they always know how to figure it out come postseason time. That one I had the hardest time with because the circumstances. I mean, Bills Mafia is going to show up for that game and
Oh
they'll
yeah.
be there. And with Patrick Mahomes, being on the road for the first time in a playoff game, like outside of, neutral Super Bowl sites, that might be a struggle for him.
Could be.
So I went back and forth on this one for a long time, but I'm still going with Buffalo
Mm,
because I think this is going to be the year where they are playing at home, like they're feeling pretty confident right now because they're coming off of these great wins that they just had. And I think for them, um they're determined this year. I think it's going to be a really close game. But I think it's going to be one of those games that comes down to the Bills are able to just execute everything a little bit better with the comfort of being at home. And I think
yeah.
that's going to be something that, might end up being uncomfortable for Mahomes since he's not used to that.
Yeah, no, I mean that's a good point, and I went back and forth too, and I was like, okay, do I go with Patrick Mahomes? Do I have faith in those receivers? I don't, but I think Patrick Mahomes now, like they figured us something, they figured a little bit out. I know, beating Miami in that freezing cold. They seem like it's just like okay, it's playoff time now. It's Andy Reid, it's Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelsey. So and like I said, they have a good defense. I think their defense actually has held them. held them up for this, for their season because Mahomes didn't have his best year because they said the receivers couldn't get open, they're dropping passes. There's a lot of things that were going on. There's frustrations going on. But I can see them just going right into Buffalo. It's going to be tough because the Bills Mafia, they're going to show up. And you're right, Buffalo had a real weird year in the beginning of the
Yeah.
season. They were 6-6, I think, heading in when the
Yeah.
Eagles beat them in overtime, and they went into their bye. They changed offensive coordinators, and then boom. Oh, let's run the football. Let's get let's not have Josh Allen be Superman all the time, and
Yeah.
because he was turning the ball over. Like I said, if he turns the ball over as often as he can, as he sometimes does, they don't win. So, but after they did that, they just took off. They took off like what we probably thought that how they were going to be anyway this season is be a really good team, be a contender, going into the Super Bowl, at least the playoffs, and then going to the Super Bowl. So, but if they beat Kansas City and then Baltimore beats Houston, that's going to be a really good. I mean, Buffalo heads into Baltimore. That's going to be a really good game either way, or Kansas
Oh
City,
yeah.
or in Houston. They could pull out the upset too. But yeah, I can see Buffalo still winning too. But I guess I got a lot of confidence in Patrick Mahomes, even on the road, in hostile environment like Buffalo. It's going to be cold and hostile. That's going to be something. Let's see if he pulls this off, and then we'll see where he goes from there. Because then he might have to go to Baltimore next, or they'd be playing at home against Houston. We'll see.
Yeah, I also have the Ravens winning too.
Yeah.
Lamar's just been having just an absolute legendary year, and
Hmm.
I don't really see that stopping now. Obviously, there's hesitations because of his history in the playoffs. So
Yep.
I could see why people might be a little hesitant about that. But I do think overall they just look like such a good team right now, and I think they'll pull that one off. And I also have the Lions winning too. I think they look very, very good. That one I think will be, a competitive game though. The Bucks are coming in with a lot of confidence right now too. So I think
Yeah.
that one will be a good game too, but I also have Detroit in that.
Yep, yep, me too. Yeah, Detroit and you said Baltimore. I think Baltimore. They said a complete team, and yeah, pressure's on them to deliver and get to a Super Bowl, to complete it. And I think Lamar Jackson, the running game, the defense, he's got receivers, and Mark Andrews could be possibly be back too. So another trusted weapon might be coming back for his favorite weapon is coming back.
Right?
So this is more weapons for Lamar Jackson. So yeah, I think there'll be a little too much for Houston. But as you said, CJ Stroud's having an unbelievable year, and I think they'll be ready. But I think now going against Baltimore is a little different than going
Yeah.
against Cleveland.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean the Texans, I mean, they have a bright future for sure. Like they're
Yes.
definitely on the right path to
Hmm.
success. So even if they do come up short this weekend, like Texas fans should be really excited for,
Yeah.
what's to come with that team.
Yeah, I agree. They got a bright future, and I felt like they was going to be. I think they're a year early with their with how they were going to improve. I
Yeah.
thought like, okay, they'll be okay, but
Yeah.
now winning the division, making the playoffs, taking the division away from Jacksonville, and what a
Yeah.
you know about epic collapse. What about that? That was a collapse too,
Oh yeah.
with them as well.
Yes.
But I mean, Houston, D'Amico Ryan, he gets the utmost credit and respect because of how he was able to flip this team around. And CJ Stroud playing like a 7-8 year veteran, instead of a rookie, and he's playing with so much confidence. So yeah, even they like say if they lose, their future is really bright.
Yeah, it'll be fun to watch how these games play out this weekend though, because we have some fun, talented players here, and a lot of these teams have been super fun to watch down the stretch. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to see how it turns out, regardless.
Yep, me too. I'm excited. I mean, even though my team's not in, I thought, well, I'll be having almost Sunday 3 o'clock, and the Eagles at Detroit,
Yeah,
but no, not didn't happen. It wasn't meant to be. So I'm
wasn't meant
still
to
gonna
be
watch.
this.
Yeah, I'm still watching the game. So of course.
Well, I mean, speaking of meant to be, it seems like, and I mean, I hate to say this because I don't want to jinx them, but it seems like it might be meant to be for the Celtics this year.
Mm,
Finally, for the first time in a long time, that I actually feel like, I can say that they've been absolutely dominating their competition. They've just, I mean, they're undefeated at home. and they just have looked very, very good. You know, the addition of Porzingis this year was absolutely huge for them and was clearly a piece that they needed. And then they jumped right on trading for Holiday when the Bucks let him go, which to me, you know, was a huge mistake for them defensively. But you know, that was a great move for them. So the Celtics are looking like, you know, a very complete team right now. My hesitation with them is, are they going to have enough bench depth going into the playoffs to be able to go all the way this year? Because they've had some guys who have really stepped up off the bench this year into bigger roles than we expected them to be in, guys who I didn't expect to be playing as well as they are. So that's definitely helped, but I still would love to see them, you know, acquire another big guy, and just maybe another shooter off the bench or something, just some more depth that they can get. But my question to you is, who do you see as the biggest threat to them right now in the Eastern Conference? Because I mean, the Pacers, you know, pulled off this big trade
Yeah.
today now for Pascal Siakam. I mean, talk about huge for them. And the Raptors, I mean, they've been cruising lately with these trades. First of all, with the Knicks, and then now this. It's just like, I mean, that works out for both teams, I think. So the Pacers just became more dangerous too. So who in your mind do you feel like are the biggest teams that the Celtics should be worried about in the East?
I still feel like it's Milwaukee.
Yeah,
I think they're the biggest in the East. They're the biggest threat to Boston because you know, even with losing Holiday, and it's starting like without Holiday, they can't stop teams. Like they have to outscore
yeah,
teams, and they're not able to make stops. And you know, it was definitely going to hurt. I knew that was going to hurt because they hurt their perimeter defense. They hurt their defense overall, just in general, because they lost Holiday. Even you know they lost Grayson Allen too, and they lost some key players with this, but they still got Giannis. Dame is still acclimating himself into this offense. Their coaching is still going to be questionable with Milwaukee, but with Giannis and Dame, they still got. I mean, they got a chance. I think they're the biggest threat. But as you said, I think Boston's just a more complete team, even with you said their lack of depth on guys have stepped up. You said with the Celtics off the bench. So as long as they stay healthy, Porzingis stays healthy, and we talked about that. Porzingis to stay
he did.
healthy, he is such a difference maker because of him playing defense, can block shots, can hit the three. He's a hard matchup. He's a hard guy to match up against. And Jalen Brown's playing well. I mean, he stepped up and getting that big contract, so he's played well. We know what Tatum brings. Tatum's a MVP candidate
Yeah,
always. And he said Drew Holiday, getting Drew Holiday was like that was like that missing piece that they needed. And he brings championship experience. He brings like all world defense, can guard 1 through 4 basically, and he's helped them tremendously. So, but I can see Milwaukee being the biggest threat. Any other team, like I said, Indiana making that trade, getting Siakam, I think that pushes them. Still think they're a level below
yeah,
Boston and Milwaukee, but this definitely helps them. And I know Siakam wanted to get out of Toronto,
yeah,
really, and he's the last piece of that championship team that was in 2019. So
yeah,
Toronto's just having a fire sale. And so, and there's the funny thing is they're still they're 15-25 right now, so they're still like trying to lose, but they have. But now I think losing Siakam, probably they'll start really folding. But I mean, Miami, they're always a threat. I mean, as long as Jimmy
yeah.
Butler's healthy and that Heat culture, they're always a threat. But I think it's Milwaukee, Miami to an extent. Philly could be. I don't know. I mean, even with Joel Embiid playing MVP basketball again, having an MVP season again, and they have Nick Nurse, and their system is different. Their offense is different. It's flowing better. I love Tyrese Maxey, what he's been bringing. I think should be an all-star, definitely. But I don't know what they have that monkey on their back, kind of like can they get past the second round? Just like
Yeah.
the Cowboys in a way, can they get past a certain
I
point?
know. Yeah,
And so can Philly, and then hopefully Embiid, if he can stay healthy in the playoffs, because they probably should have beat Boston last year, but
yeah.
they screwed up and lost Game 6 at home, and then they got blitzed in Game 7 in Boston. So I don't know. I don't know if I trust them in the playoffs, but I think Milwaukee's still the biggest threat to the Celtics.
Yeah, I mean, the Celtics had their worst loss of the year against Milwaukee
Yeah,
recently, but that was, I mean, they did that to themselves. They could not make any shots. I don't know
right.
what was going on. That was so uncharacteristic of the Celtics.
Yeah,
But when I see these two teams play head to head, I feel like the Celtics look like a more complete team than
hmm,
Milwaukee, especially because they're in a better place defensively. But like you said, I mean, that Milwaukee team is so stacked too.
yeah,
And I think, as hard as it was for Celtics fans to swallow, trading Marcus Smart, I think, was the right thing to do. Derek White's
yeah.
been phenomenal for this team.
Yes.
And he deserves so much credit for everything he's been doing. He's been that guy in the clutch a lot who's making those big threes, and he's a great playmaker, and he's just really done a good job of setting up the offense. And, you know, I'll always love Marcus Smart, but the team is better now because they made that move because they were able to get the pieces that they really need. Because, Tatum and Brown, I mean, those two guys, like, they want that championship, and the
Yeah, they're
Celtics
hungry.
needed to get guys around them that could help them get that. And, this feels like it might be the year, but it's such a different animal in the playoffs. And I need to see some more consistency from Tatum
Mm.
and Brown come postseason time if they're going to win this thing, because that was something that hurt them last year. Was those two were just too inconsistent in the postseason.
Yeah, they're right. I think this consistency with Tatum and Brown at the top was now they have. They said they have Holiday, who's a to me he's a much improvement more than Marcus Smart. I feel like with Marcus Smart, they just got as far as they could. They got to a finals and they got to another conference finals last season. But as you said, I think it was more of Smart. So he was such a leader of that team. It was almost like they wanted to kind of separate and let Tatum and Brown be the leader. Yes, Tatum and Brown are better players, but Mark Smart was the heart of that team. He was the pulse of that team, and he was the leader in the locker room. And I think that for Tatum and Brown to grow, they needed to separate Smart from that. As you know, much as he meant to Boston and that city and the team, defensively and everything too. But getting Drew Holiday, even a better version of him, who can knock down shots, who's consistent for the most part. Uh, that's just I think that's the missing piece. And you said Tatum and Brown, they're hungry. They're real hungry to win. And like I said, bringing in Porzingis was like, and then Derek White. I mean, the Celtics defensively, that defensive five right there alone, and not even including Al Horford on top of that. So Celtics, they seen the team to beat in the East so far.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens here, as we progress through the rest of this regular season, because if they continue to play the way that they're playing, teams are not going to want to see them come playoff time. And you know what it is about them? They're winning games this year that last year's team would have lost. Like, they're winning
Yeah.
close games at the end that they would have lost last year because it was either, they missed the big shot at the end, or they couldn't close out because they just blew it at the end. But they're finding ways to win those games. And that's a big thing for me as to why I can tell they're a different team than they were last year.
Yeah, they are closing games out, and they got so many people that can close now too. And that's one thing Drew Holiday brought is he can close games too. He can make a stop or he can hit a big shot. They have that. They got Tatum. They got Brown. They could go to Porzingis if they need to go in the post. They could do a lot of different things. Even Derek White, who's hitting shots and always in playing solid defense. So they can go to a lot of different guys. And I think the last couple seasons it was either Tatum or Brown. It was one of the two of them that was they can go to. And yes, they can close games too, but as you said, they were inconsistent doing it. Now if they don't have it going, now they can, like I said, they can go to a Drew Holiday, and that's just that to me. He was the missing piece of that team. To when they lost Smart, they just got Drew Holiday. Now I know Milwaukee's thinking, yeah, we love Dame. Dame is playing well, but defensively we lost a lot with Drew
Yeah.
Holiday, and the Celtics are like a good defensive team just got so much better, and they're showing that, and they've been they've been playing really well. I mean, they're the best team in the league.
Yeah, no, they are. And hopefully it stays that way
Hmm.
because, I mean, Celtics fans are ready to win that championship, because we've
Yeah,
seen them some come so close the last few
so close.
years and it hasn't happened. So maybe they'll finally, finish the job this year, but only time will tell. But Courtney, I really appreciate you taking the time as always to come on the show and hang out with me and chat. It's always such a fun time when we do shows together.
I love it. Yes, I love being on here. Love talking with you, and we get such an engaging conversation about a lot of different things. And but yeah, I really enjoyed the time. Glad that you're back doing Boston balling. I know you're gonna put out all that great content again, and Locked On Red Sox. I listen to it all the time. Even though I'm not a Red Sox fan, but I also gotta support my good friend. Always listening when you bring out new episodes. So, but I appreciate it being on here always.
Yeah, thank you so much. And, before I let you go, just let everybody know where they can follow you and follow your show and your content.
Yeah, you can follow the show on all podcast platforms, whether it's Spotify, Google, Apple. You can follow it on Spreaker. You can follow it on the BS3 TV network on Roku, the Roku channel as well, and BS3TVLive.com. You can follow me on all social media platforms at Get the Real Deal and Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Courtney Harden.
Awesome. Yeah, everyone who's tuning in, definitely check out Courtney's content. He knows a lot about, a lot of different sports, and he's super talented. So I highly recommend you follow him, follow his show. Thanks as always for tuning in. I will catch everybody next time on Boston Balling. Take care.
Boston bowling.